trying to hit that segment of our citizenry that's working, that has children, or also now even that's working, maybe an empty nester, but is now caring for their parents, I wish government had the ability to be more responsive. I know through some of the things I do and some of the folks I work with in community-based services, when we try to have public meetings, sometimes we try to have something in the day at lunch and then also at evening. For our business community, sometimes we'll try to have something in the morning before a breakfast meeting and then also in the evening, maybe when their work closes. Some of our community groups, and this is where the partnership, where we co-produce things, some of our community groups, they try to provide daycare at some of our meetings when we go out into the public. And I know that for us a lot, as in the groups I work with, we try to go out into the public. There are official public meetings or public hearings that oftentimes are in the city, they're in the council chambers, they're recorded. They have that level of transparency and requirement. But most of the engagement things I deal with is where we try to go out into the community and meet them on their territory. And so that's one way. Coming to you is a little easier than having to always come to us downtown. I would like to see us, and we don't do it very well yet, but to have almost like a swing shift government where you could actually had staff working, not just a couple people who go to meetings or stay late for a meeting, but you actually have some of your clerical and administrative and support staff working into the evening so people can get some of their basic day-to-day questions taken care of. We don't do that yet. We do try to be child friendly, but right now I can tell you when I go to meetings, the majority of people that I see are either self-employed businesses who have staff so they can come to a meeting because their staff is running the shop, or they are retired. And that is probably the majority of folks who come out, and a lot of times they're women, sometimes stay-at-home moms, but retired women And I really would like to see us be able, because we miss the working families, we miss the people with young kids.
What you'll see when you're looking at things over time is that you have this group that's identified by some demographic and this group that's identified by, or self-identifies by some demographic in all these areas. And they're kind of an in crowd, right? So you'll see the same 5 people from this ethnic group or the same 5 people from that ethnic group. So I think it's important, both as citizens and as elected officials and as municipal organizations and schools, to reach out beyond those organizations, because just because there's an organization doesn't mean everybody feels comfortable going to that organization. In terms of getting more representation from currently underrepresented groups, I'm still seeing that while I've seen the number of groups increase, the number of leaders increase, I'm still seeing a lot more Caucasian faces than I am faces of color. And in my community, I know that that's not an accurate representation of the population.
I think that there is a huge disparity in ethnic diversity in the state legislative process in particular, and even in our internship program. And the fact of the matter is there's a lot more Caucasian people applying for our program than there are minorities. And so, and minorities meaning not only ethnic minorities, but different age groups as well. Gender is pretty even, but when it comes to age groups, there's a lot of older students who don't think they qualify for the program, and so they don't put themselves in that position. And I think it's really unfortunate because they're taking away, they're keeping themselves from an opportunity that could really have an effect on the rest of their lives. And the same thing goes for minority students. I think that the word is just not put out there as much. I think the populations are there. It's just really about getting the word out to them and encouraging them and really making or helping minorities believe that they too have a role in this process.
Every single one of us has our own skill set, and what you can contribute to the community that you're in is a lot. And figuring out how to motivate your community to wrap around one big thing, whether it's an event, a campaign, a deadline, an amount of money you want to raise, or like goals for education you want to put inside the community or you want to do in the community. I strongly believe that the root of change comes from like education and like understanding. Like when we're educating each other, we can build connections and links to each other around like how different people have suffered, and then we can start to make a change. Creating social change becomes addictive because you realize like if you're trying to create one change here, it leads to this other change that needs to happen here. You know, like if you're trying to end domestic violence, you realize, well, should I work with the youth? Should I work with the elders? Should I work with the women? Should I work with the perpetrators? It's your choice to figure out where to start, but just starting something is important.
A lot of the students that apply for the undergraduate internship program have no idea what the state legislative process is about or how it works. I think it's a huge disappointment to the state of Washington and to people in general when they don't know how to get involved in their state government. They don't know that they have an opportunity for their voice to be heard. And in my experience, I don't remember having a state government level class in high school. Frankly, I don't even remember focusing a whole lot on the federal government. I mean, it wasn't really, there wasn't any focus on civics when I was in high school.
Is the state of civics education better or worse? I'm not sure. Can it be better? Absolutely. But you have to find that perfect point of teaching civics that doesn't cross any political boundary, because you can't do that in a public school, or you ought not to anyway.
Some of the most intense and powerful social change I've participated in has been directly related around my son and being a mother and being present. Like whether we're walking at a rally and I'm debating with people in an organizing committee about why we should have child care or child accessible like trolleys for children through the whole march or through the whole rally, to whether I'm at the state capitol explaining like why as a mother it's so different for me. I wish I could trust that Nico could go to school and become more socially conscious, and become more aware of the world around him. I wish, that schools would have a way of helping support my child to become a more accountable human and more socially invested person. I feel like some schools find it the hardest thing to demand of them, that you help raise my child in a socially conscious way.
Sometimes all it takes is a little bit of practice. I was once in a meeting where we pulled out a cell phone and handed it out to different people and said, here's the phone number, call up, make the call, tell them this. And then we would say, see, wasn't that easy when it was all over? And that was a really great way to give people the practice, and they're surrounded by people who can coach them as to what to say or do if they get stuck. So it was really fun.
Today, I wonder how much the medium of text messaging would be relevant, or Facebook, or all these other social mediums that do, by the way, let people that have very little time participate.
Well, the nice thing about mobilization efforts now is that there's a lot of ways to tap into advocacy or lobbying electronically. We have a Children's Action Network list of about 10,000 people who get updates regularly throughout the year. It's not just in the session, it's in the interim as well. And you can get regular updates about what's going on, how to take action, who needs to be leaned on, if that person is from your legislative district, how to, basically write a letter. A draft letter would be sent and you can edit it and send or make calls. But that's just one type of advocacy. I think there's a spectrum of advocacy that's needed, all the way from making those calls and sending those emails from your home to working within coalitions at the state or the local level to actively organize and strategize what's the best message for this person, what's the best way to move them on a specific issue. And then when it comes to state level advocacy and even federal level, really figuring out if you have the time to come to Olympia or to go to DC. A lot of organizations and like ours and others will help find the resources in order to make sure that your voice is directly heard. So there's a spectrum of ways to get involved, and one of the, I think, really powerful things that we've done in the last few years is for individuals who can't come to Olympia or maybe can't go to DC, we try to bring their face and their voice to Olympia through both video and through photos. So we had a photo campaign where hundreds of photos were sent to legislators with a picture of kids holding signs saying, don't forget about me, make kids count, and I'm counting on you. It was the I'm counting on you campaign, and I think it was pretty powerful. We also made videos because legislators, like us, have only a certain amount of time and quick attention span, so we wanted them to see a different way to interact with families.